Hi everyone, and welcome back to Trails to the Tower. I'm your host Michael. I'm once again joined by my friends Jeremy.
Hello!
And Vince.
Hey everybody!
Today we'll be taking on the second book of The Stand, which consists of chapters 43 to 60. So, last time we covered most of all of the main characters. We'll be adding in a couple more this time, but hopefully this time we'll go a little bit faster because everyone's kind of grouped up now, so we don't have to constantly split narratives. How did you guys feel about the second book in The Stand?
Personally, I felt like this is where the story starts to drag out a bit.
Yeah, a lot of people have a problem with they find the Boulder stuff to be really slow. I strangely really like it.
I'm with you. I enjoyed it. It's just after reading the journey part, right? We're now at the politic part. Yeah. Like this is a lot of there's a lot of cloak and dagger shit going on. There's a lot of
There was certainly a shift in the momentum in the I don't know, I guess the pace of it all. Like it kind of went 0 to 60 really fast.
Yeah, it does. Once our characters start grouping up, the story does really start moving along a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Everything's much more condensed and cohesive, and then yeah. Which is strange, because I had a question. Where is Mother Abigail's house?
She's in Nebraska, in Hemingford Home.
Okay, so Nebraska is more western on the American continent, right?
I believe so. I'm going to pull up a map of America so we can see this, because we are filthy Canadians and don't know.
Yeah.
Filthy Canadians? Is that what you said?
Yes.
You should apologize. Sorry, we're filthy Canadians.
No, it's Surrey.
This one looks like it's from an elementary school. Okay.
So my question is, like, is it like the halfway point?
Yeah, it's literally in the center of America. It's just above Kansas.
Okay, all right.
And below South Dakota, which is of course below North Dakota.
It seemed like there was a bit of a jump between the journey to Mother Abigail's and then the journey to Los Angeles? No.
Boulder,
Vegas.
Colorado.
Is it Colorado?
Well, that's where Mother Abigail's group ends up going, yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Here, so we all have a map.
Yeah, sorry, Flag was stationed in Vegas.
It's a very small map. I got the most childish-looking one I could find.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Oh,
so,
wow, right in the middle.
Yeah, they don't really have to go that far to get to Colorado. But I guess Boulder's in the mountains, so... Anyway.
Yeah.
They want the mountains in case they try to send anybody. It's a natural divide, right? And going through the mountains in the winter would be a bitch for anybody.
Very true, very true.
Yep.
Okay, so... the first character we're going to get to is Nick, actually. He's where this one picks up. And they introduce what must be one of the greatest characters Stephen King has ever written, by the name of Tom Cullen.
Honestly, I got to agree with you. I don't know what his power is to write people with handicaps in such a way that you can almost feel their frustration. Nick's a good example because you can feel his frustration. If I could just fucking talk, I could help so much more. And then we get introduced to Tom here, and he's the same. I love this character.
Tom is... He's in my top 5 Stephen King characters. He's pretty high up there.
Yeah, just so simply written, but you get it. And then when they hypnotize him, it's even better.
Yeah. Fun fact, in the original Stand miniseries, he is played by the same guy who voices Patrick Star in SpongeBob.
I knew I recognized him. That's funny.
Yeah, it's great. This is great. I was very happy when I found that one out.
I couldn't unhear his voice.
Well, that's just his voice.
I know. I still can't unhear it.
Yeah.
But he plays characters very well.
Oh, yes.
Like, he's a decent actor.
Yeah.
He's a very good actor.
Wasn't he in Coach, too?
Beg your pardon?
Wasn't he in Coach, the miniseries from the 90s?
Maybe I didn't watch that, so I'm not sure.
I will look that up.
Yeah. So, again, I really love Tom. I think he's a fantastic character. Whenever I read or like listen to the audiobook, like the 90s Tom is who I picture. Like I can't picture anyone else playing him.
So in the new miniseries, the guy did a good job playing him, but he just didn't fit my image of him.
No, he was very, very different than Book Tom. But I mean, he did a very good job.
Yeah, he just didn't have that childish look I was expecting, like that almost juvenile face on a man.
Yeah, like he's described in the book. Also, like,
oh yeah, he wasn't Coach.
They gave him like no screen time.
Yeah, they didn't let him develop the character, the actor, very much. So
yeah, and like it was just a terrible. That series, just the new series, had just so many terrible portrayals of characters, which is very upsetting because it could have been so much better. Like I liked the kid they got to play Harold. I thought he did a really good job. He looked the proper age.
He was better Harold than the '90s one.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg as Mother Abigail, I think, would have been really, really good had the script been there.
Yeah. I loved her. I loved her as Mother Abigail in the miniseries. I just, like you said, the '90s ones did so much more better. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so I like that actress better in the role because of how the story was portrayed with her.
We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the character, but I mean, like, I just feel that, like, Ezra Miller could have done a really good job, but it was either the script's fault or the director's fault. Like...
Yeah, because, like, what he portrayed on screen was brutal.
Yeah, I'm just like...
he was just some sniveling, screaming invalid, and that's not that character at all.
No, I had to turn it off, and I couldn't go back for, like, 3 weeks.
I don't blame you, but you gave me the heads up that, like, hey, watch out for him. He ruins it a little bit.
Yeah, and
I can't be that bad, and then he gets on screen, and I'm like, oh, that's bad.
Like,
I've never had a reaction to that scene before. Mike, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we watched it together. I was just like,
maybe want to
no.
crinkle my nose and not smell through my... Yeah. It was a powerful scene, I'll give it that. But
see,
still.
I am personally not a fan of Miller, but I really think Miller could have done a really good job in that role had they been given, the proper fucking direction or script. Or both.
Yeah, I mean, the dude can act. I'm not going to take that away from him, but it's not in that role. Show up half naked, you said. Like, and just scream at the camera and drool a lot. Okay. Like...
Yeah. Okay, so Nick's riding through town, and he sees what he believes is a body just laying on the middle of the road, so he's going to swerve around it, right? Body suddenly sits up and waves to him. Nick has a bit of an accident, and he meets our favorite character, Tom Cullen, who is just a bag of sunshine, and, of course, is unable to read. And
the two make an interesting duo as well.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously it was purposely done.
Yeah,
it's a book, but like, it's just like something like that could actually really happen in this situation, and like the frustration you get from Nick, like he's like, oh great, it's like I finally find someone, and of course they can't read, like
yeah,
yep.
But fortunately, Tom's a lot smarter than people would think.
Oh yeah, he can figure things out. It takes him a second, but when he puts 2 and 2 together, man,
he
spells moon.
Exactly, he spells moon. Yeah, so I mean, their initial meeting, there isn't that much that happens. Nick breaks into a pharmacy, and Tom's against that because it says it's closed.
He's such he's got. What I loved about Tom is they nailed the innocence of a child.
Yes, he's.
Oh, you can't do that, sir. You know that's so and so shop, and they might be back, and they're gonna want their stuff where it is. And it's the look Nick gives him, like I had in my head, where he's kind of like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Does he not know everybody's dead? Like,
And Tom
No,
doesn't
yeah.
think everyone's dead. He thinks they all just left to Kansas City, except for his mom and his mom's best friend, unfortunately.
yeah, and like the way he's like, they're just napping, right? Like you know what I mean? He wrote the innocence so well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love when King describes Tom's, Jesus was like some weird form of Santa Claus in Tom's head, where he brought people's souls up the chimneys, but only if there was no one around. So,
And again, it just plays into that childistic view of the world, right? Like I just love how he nailed it so well. Like everything Tom does is with innocence and like a pure heart. Like it's so cool to read that character throughout this novel.
It's such a contrast compared to everything else.
yes. So we do get a little bit of Tom's backstory.
Right? He makes it beautiful for a bit.
Yeah.
So we do get we do learn a little bit of Tom's backstory. He's a farmhand, helps around. He's getting on pretty well, so I mean, they give him quite a bit of responsibility, actually, which is pretty awesome. His father left his mother for a DD Pack-a-Lot. Then he started dying of the super flu. He thinks they all went to Kansas City, and he got into some whiskey, and then he met Nick.
So it was whiskey. All right.
Yeah, it was some form of alcohol. He was drunk.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I kind of binged more than I should have, but anyway.
So shortly after that, Nick decides to skip town. He's going to take Tom along with him because, you know, he just can't leave him alone because Nick's a really good guy. So
Well, they've all been having those dreams about that woman, haven't they?
Yep. And Nick's not too sure if Tom's been having those dreams, but he knows he has, and he wants to head to Nebraska just to make sure, you know. Turns out to be a really good idea to take Tom along, because if not, Nick would have been sucked up by a tornado.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, the whole tornado scene, and Nick's like, geez, if I had been an ass and, you know, not taken this guy with me, I'd be dead now, because I would have been hit by that tornado, because I wouldn't have been able to hear it coming.
And that's one thing I actually noticed throughout the course of the book. There's when the groups start meeting up, because there's more that we're going to be talking about later on in the podcast here, but there's serendipitous things that seem to happen once they unite. Like, as the group starts coming, things start swinging more their way. Like, if Nick was on his own, he would be dead, right?
Yes.
But as they
There's
collect...
a lot of emphasis on like teamwork, cooperation in this book.
Yeah. You need others to survive, is pretty much what the book is saying.
Yep. Kind of the theme of the whole series, really.
So, after the close shave with the whole tornado, they end up in another small town, I'm not entirely sure the name of, where they meet another character who don't like so much. Her name is Julie Laurie, and she's destined for Vegas. What do we think about Julie?
I love this character because I love to hate her. And I think that's how she was meant to be written. Like, you're not supposed to like this broad at all. Like, right down to what doesn't she call Tom retarded? And that's where Nick slaps her.
Yeah. Nick draws the line there because.
Oh yeah, and just how sadistic she is. With when Tom has the bellyache and Nick gets the Pepto, and then she says, "No, don't drink that. That's poison." And then Tom, being the child mind that he is, you wouldn't give me poison, but now he won't drink the medicine to make his belly feel better.
Because he's scared.
Right?
Yeah. And that's when Nick gives her a slap, hands her a note that says, "We don't need you." And then he threatens to shoot her, and she runs away, where she then returns and starts shooting at them. So they skedaddle off. Where
I like that scene because it was quick.
Yeah.
It happened just as quick. They meet her, he tells her basically to piss off, and then she shoots at them. It's really quite a quick scene, but he gets a lot into it. You get a lot of her character right out of it. You see more of Nick's protective character, right? It was a really well-written scene, and it happened quickly, and I like when he gets a lot of shit done in a few amount of words, because he does tend to run on some things too. So
Yeah, especially in his older work, which this is one of his first 5 books, I believe. So
Yeah, he liked his adjectives back in the day.
yeah.
But I mean, he kind of worked through that. There were some scenes were a little longer than others, so I think he paced himself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So.
But yeah, no.
Oh, sorry, Vince. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all right. It would just make sense that, like, along the way, you would make enemies.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, not everybody can be good.
This is a Stephen King world, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's monsters everywhere.
Yep, it's not a perfect world.
Yeah. So, after they escaped the onslaught that was Julie Laurie, they're biking down the road heading towards Hemmingford home when they spot a truck in the distance coming their way. And we are then introduced to another character, Mr. Ralph Brentner. I believe I pronounced that correctly.
I love Ralph.
Yes, he's
Yeah, good guy.
yeah, he's a great guy. He seems like a very simple man.
He's just a country boy, man. He just gets shit done.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, he's got a strong faith. Like I really, he was a well-written character, and he hit every trope he needed to for the story. I loved it.
Yes.
He brought that Southern class to everything, I think.
Oh yeah. I think he's a fantastic character. He's one of those other characters. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Mike. No, isn't this the part 2 where Nick finally gets, or Tom finally learns Nick's name?
Yes. He's finally able to properly introduce himself to Tom.
That was such a feel-good moment in the book for me. I'm like, oh, dude, like, they've been through some shit now, like a tornado, rescuing him, rescuing each other, like, and now he finally can call him by his name. That's huge.
Yes, it is very, very nice to see that. We're going to take a slight break from Nick and move on to our next character because it's a pretty important one. Our next character is Mother Abigail, who we actually haven't had any chapters of yet until this point.
And then we get a whole big one about her.
Yeah,
Only ever been mentioned, yeah.
Well, yep, only ever seen in dreams. So, how do we like Mother Abigail, guys?
She's exactly what she needs to be in this book, and it's incredible. Like, she's what, 102?
108.
108. Oh, fuck. Sorry, that just every time I hear it, it rocks my world because of what she gets done. She's basically God's agent on Earth to fight the fucking Man in Black, right? Or Randall Flagg, as we know him.
Yeah, it's pretty much a proxy war at this point, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking like it.
Yeah, she is. She's something special, and he writes her that way. Even like her history of being a black woman when it was not a good time to be a black woman in America. Like, you know, he hits the tropes that her family had to go through to get the farm she lived on. Like they earned their keep, and they earned it hard. And you learn that about her in her like first chapter, and you're like, this woman has seen a lot of shit.
Yeah,
like way more than any of the group combined has seen. Like, she's lived through wars, she's lived through racism, segregation, you know what I mean? Like, she's seen it all.
Yep.
She got a pretty impressive resume, I'll give her that.
I really like her backstory. Like, it's one of my favorite little sections in the book.
Well, it's the most endearing part of her character, right? Like, you're just like, this woman is meant to save these people.
Yeah. She doesn't really want to, but I mean, it's what God wants, so I mean, that's what she's gonna do. Because she's just that devout.
Yeah, and then that scene where she's walking to get the chickens. Randall Flagg comes to screw with her with the weasels. Like, everything about her, it's just, her story was always endurance. Like, what can you throw at me next, God? Give me a break. I'm 108. Like, but she keeps going.
Yep, doesn't like to quit.
Yep.
Oh man, she's a beacon in a dark world.
Absolutely. So, now that we've talked about her a little bit, we do learn a little bit more about her after Nick and the crew show up, which has actually grown a bit since he picked up Ralph. I don't remember most of the characters' names, because there's so goddamn many in this book. But
and a lot of them are throwaways. You don't really like. They just add something to another character's development, like
kill him, yeah.
Stu doing the guy's appendix.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. We'll get to that.
like I didn't even know who the fuck that guy was, and now Stu's gotten him open. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah. One of the one of the survivors that meets up with Nick is a vet, and another is a young girl, like a little girl. And oh crud, I can't remember the woman's name.
I'm not gonna hold it against you,
Yeah.
Mike. I barely remember those people in the story, so.
Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna bug me until I remember it. But she ends up like hooking up with the guy who's like helping them fix the power plant in Boulder. So she's not super important, but she's kind of there.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So they spend a couple days.
Characters that they find as like secondaries, I find they're written into it for the simple fact that they're needed to do something at Boulder. Like that, you're the vet, you're the doctor, you're gonna get the, you know what I mean? Like they're just, it's basically setting up the township's kind of like utilities.
It's almost like a play, almost, in a sense.
Yeah, you're gonna be the blacksmith. You're gonna be, you like. But yeah, no, I found a lot of those characters like they don't get developed very much. And it's actually, he does, it's funny in this, I don't know if this is in the extended version or in all of them. He does this one little chapter where it's like no big ways, right?
Oh yeah, we skipped over that one where it was just like going over like the secondary dying after the super flu.
Yeah, where it's like the woman hated her family. So when they finally died, she was enjoying life. And then she went down to the wine cellar and it locked behind her. Bet you she wished she had her family now. No big loss. Like,
Yeah,
that was the one.
It was such a fun little short story to throw in this story, and I wanted to touch on it at some point. And sorry, I went off on a fucking segue there, but
oh, that's okay. I really like the. Oh, sorry. I really like the one with the guy looking to rob the drug dealer's house, and he just like shoots up like 100% pure heroin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, finds it in the back of the tank. No big ways.
Yeah.
Like,
No great loss.
no great loss. Yeah. Like, they were just great.
Yeah. So our little group spends a couple days resting at Mother Abigail's before they decide that, you know, it's time we start heading towards Boulder. So they pack her up. There's a kind of tearful goodbye to her house because she knows she ain't never coming back. And yeah, they head off to Boulder.
Yeah, and they leave a sign for anybody that might be coming behind them to let them know where they're headed.
Yes. So from Nick's group, we're gonna mosey on over to Stu's group, where they've picked up a couple extra people, both of which not super important. One's Marion, and I don't remember the guy's name. But
honestly, from this point on, I think we should only really touch on, like, because we're going to get into the Cross coming up and Joe, you know what I mean? Like, those are important characters. Like, in groups, we don't really have to focus on the ones, like we just said, that are basically utility NPCs.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they've been traveling, picked up a couple extra people. One of them had an appendicitis. Stu tried to save him, but the guy died on the operating ground. Operating ground. Then his wife kind of offs herself from sorrow, I guess, and
The lives of herself off screen.
yeah, she unalives herself. So it's a. I mean, I understand why it's in there. It's supposed to show like Stu fighting his hardest to, you know, keep everyone alive, but he's not able to.
And it just shows, too, that even after the flu's done killing its people, it's not done killing people, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, people are always going to be people.
Yeah.
At this point, Glenn has joined the party. However, they were unable to bring the dog, so they had to sadly leave Kojak behind.
Oh, fuck, man. That dog's the other goat in this goddamn story.
Yep, but fear not, our four-legged companion will be back. So there's a couple really like in their travel to Boulder, there's a couple really, really good scenes. My favorite is the one where they're camping and they start having that conversation about statistics and stuff. Of where Glenn mentions like that usually like a bunch of people end up calling in, like calling off sick when they're going to go on a plane that's going to crash.
Yeah, that was a really cool.
Yeah, I just really liked him and Harold bantering at each other because they're both so smart, and it was just so much fun listening to them argue.
What I liked about that argument in particular was Harold didn't lose because he wasn't smarter than Glenn. He lost because he wasn't as experienced as Glenn. Right? It's such a cool spectrum in that fight because you have the young up-and-coming generation fighting with the gatekeeping generation, right? Like, Glenn's seen most of the shit he's talking about happen, where Harold's are all kind of theories because he's just this teenage kid that's never experienced more than this bumblefuck New England town, right? And I really enjoyed that dynamic between the two in that conversation.
Well, they had a lot of good back and forths. Like, even how experienced they all could be, like, they all sort of bring something to the table, and, like, these people aren't stupid. They can't be at this point.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't be alive if they were stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on the travels, and another scene that I really like, which is going to introduce a couple characters that are important. So they're riding down the road on their bikes, come around the corner, and they see an overturned trailer with a line of guys in front of it, and a bunch of women, like, kneeling kind of behind them. And it's a pretty brutal scene.
Oh yeah, and honestly, I'm gonna segue to the new miniseries. They actually did this scene really well.
Yes, I thought that was a pretty well done scene.
Honestly, I almost want to say it's probably one of the best scenes in the new miniseries.
Yeah. I'll go with that. It's one of the best scenes. I mean, they narrowed it down to only being like 2 people, but what are you gonna do?
But they nailed everything that needed to be nailed in that scene from the book. Like, I think that's why I liked it. I'm like, you cut some stuff, but it makes sense. You didn't need to have 6 guys here for this. It could be 1 guy, and it's just as dramatic, even more dramatic, actually, if you think about it, because he's managed to wrangle a Harlem of 3 survivors that he's using as his own personal pleasure toys.
Yep. So,
and I mean, that basically sets up the book. It's just 6 guys doing the same thing.
Yeah. So the 2 characters that we meet are Sue Stern, who becomes a member of their little council, and Dana Jurgens, who is pretty much a badass, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, both these chicks are pretty strong women. I'm gonna put that out there.
Also, this marks our second Susan.
I mean, if this happened to a guy, they'd probably be broken fucking inside and out.
Yeah. Also, this is our second Susan.
Second Susan. Another Susan.
Yeah, this one is a vast improvement over the last Susan, because this one doesn't do stupid things.
Just for the sake of advancing the plot.
Yeah. So
Stupid Susan is the one from Salem's Lot. If anybody hasn't watched that podcast, what are you doing here? Go watch that podcast.
And we once again apologize for the audio. We will re-record it at some point.
Yeah. We're still learning our audios. And I'm not helping today because I'm on my cell phone and not on my mic setup.
That's okay. You sound mostly fine.
Yeah, a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got off the Bluetooth headset. I just had that on for when I was out on my bike.
Yeah.
Yep, fair enough. But Susan.
Yes. So they, with the help of some of the captured women who had been being drugged, but they were able to successfully palm their pills this morning. They're able to kill these guys, and they kind of deserved it a lot.
Yeah, because basically these guys were drugging women and using them as their personal pleasure toys. and keeping them sedated. And the girls finally got the wits about themselves to palm the pills, and it just happened to be a really good day to do that because we had a group of our survivors showing up to their little clusterfuck.
Yes, the zoo, as they were being called. The zoo.
Oh.
Yeah. There's some pretty like you're told what happens with like them.
Like the concept is like,
and how like they killed like a 12-year-old girl because she refused to do something that they didn't even want to talk about. So
yep.
Yeah,
so yeah,
the book writes it out a lot better. So if you're like, trigger warning, I guess would be what we're saying here. Because it gets pretty brutal in there.
Yeah, there's certain scenes in some King books that aren't suitable for all audiences. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fiction, so that's the good thing. It didn't actually happen to anybody, but I can understand if it had happened to somebody that sucks.
Yes.
Yep.
Like,
but
like
yeah, so they kill these bastards.
I don't think I should put them on a podcast.
Yeah, so they kill these bastards and kind of
a pretty violent exchange too. Like shit didn't go cleanly here.
No.
And they also dehumanized Harold, didn't they? Or is that's the miniseries? Sorry.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, where he basically makes Harold stand up to the guy, or the one guy in the miniseries takes Harold on, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Harold does kill one or two of them, but like, I mean, he's a fucking scared teenage boy, right?
Well, and he's the fun part about Harold is he's trying to be something more than that, and he's still just a teenage boy, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So they kind of retreat to a farmhouse close by to kind of recover and let all the other people kind of come off the drugs that they had been like being forced to take.
Well, I mean, the rest of the group had all that adrenaline from the fight that they needed to disperse too. You can't do anything with that running through you.
Yeah, Glenn was super shaken. Poor old man. So they end up at the house. Everyone kind of they rest there a day or two, I'm assuming. It doesn't really say. But
again, on the journey, the time gets really wonky because they don't really keep track of it until it's like, what day is it? Like somebody has that thought, right?
Also, we're kind of like, so we skipped a bunch of chapters when we were talking about Nick's stuff up until leaving for Boulder. And we're kind of doing the same with this group stuff. So we can just kind of tell all their stories up until they leave for Boulder. So we don't have to keep jumping back and forth.
I'm kind of a fan of doing that too, because if somebody actually wants to read it, we're kind of touching on things. We're not really, this isn't a deep dive, is what I'm saying. Like, we're not ripping right into it. We're more just giving our opinions on what we thought.
Yeah, pretty much our favorite parts and stuff. Like what we thought about characters, shit like that.
How we thought the whole story progressed, but yeah, if people are looking for like a deep dive, we're going to analyze every character. Clearly, that's not the case. We just called a bunch of them utility characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I believe they head for Nebraska, which then will lead them to Boulder, which kind of ends these guys for now. Where we're going to move over to Larry. Larry hasn't been having a good time since the death of Rita. He's taken to only walking now because he ditched his motorcycle. He's in a constant state of self-doubt. He just thinks he's absolute garbage because he couldn't even, save Rita.
No, I really, this part of the story is where Larry's character starts to build. This is the fundamental part of building your character. He's tearing himself down on the inside. Like he really has this internal struggle for most of the book up until they leave Boulder.
Even then.
Yeah,
So-
but that's where you see him, like, that walk from, we'll cover it next week, but the walk from Boulder to Vegas is where he comes full circle and becomes that confident person, right? Like, Larry's journey throughout this entire novel is the one you want to read. Like, he's a scumbag when he starts.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
there's no denying that. And he grows into such this well-rounded, beautiful individual, right? He knows his flaws, but he also knows his strengths by the end. Like, it's I really liked Larry, and I didn't like him at the start. I'm like, yeah, fuck this guy. Like,
Yeah, I did as well. He was one of those characters where I could have went either way with him. Like, if he was killed off, I'd be okay with it. But I'm glad, one of those characters stuck around, and we can see them, come out on the other side of, well, all of this.
It's funny you put it that way, because that's how Larry puts it too. He's coming through the other side, is how he puts it in his mind.
Oh god, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But yeah. In the Stand, it was always such like a black and white portraying of characters. You're either with Mother Abigail or you're in Vegas. You know what I mean?
yeah.
There was no real gray. Well, yeah.
You're right, Vince. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I want to try and put it into words too. He is gray. When he starts, he could have went to Vegas.
Yep.
Like he could have been one of the Vegas crew, one of the Randall Flagg's henchmen, right? And I even think Flagg tries to get him a couple of times throughout the first couple parts of the book. Like, he has a lot more double dreams where he dreams of both of them, and they're portrayed in the book. Where it's not alluded to, we actually get to see his dream. But yeah, he was one of the great characters. You're right. He could have been fucking both.
He's one of the few who gets to choose.
Yeah, he chooses to grow, even when everything's dying around him.
Yep. Path of resistance.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Larry, honestly, one of the best character growths in the entire book.
Yeah.
Like, one of the biggest. Like, from complete drug addict scumbag to, like,
So one of the ones you're actually rooting for.
Yeah. You're disappointed at how it ends for him.
For me, like, I had seen the original miniseries so many times that by the time I listened to the book, like, I already had, like, an attachment to a lot of these characters, so I knew, like, oh, Larry's going to be kind of shitty in the front half, but he's going to get much better. Like, so that was a nice help. But, like, if you don't go in with that prior knowledge, you're just like, oh man, this guy's such an asshole. Why are we following him?
Well, and the best part for me is I hadn't watched the 90s miniseries since the 90s, right? So it was like, I remember some of the actors in it, but then maybe a couple of the scenes when I was a kid that scared me with Flagg in it. But I mean, other than that, I'm like, I don't remember it. So it's a good time to jump into the book and read it.
Yeah.
It's almost like going in fresh, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I buy it every time it comes in a new format. I just got it on Blu-ray in the summer. So
yeah, it was free on YouTube. You just type in The Stand and the whole miniseries comes up. I mean, I bought Salem's Lot because I couldn't find it anywhere to watch. So
there's also another really good Stephen King's miniseries on YouTube for free called Storm of the Century. Vince and I watched it last time he was here. It's fantastic.
Yep.
And the Night Stalker's on there for free too. I don't know if he knows this, and maybe somebody can tell him.
Oh, I don't think he cares.
I think he just likes his works being viewed, to be honest. If it was up to him, all of his should be on there for free.
Yeah, so, Larry, he's kind of stumbling around. He's not sleeping. He's just having a really shitty go of it. Finally kind of collapses underneath this really, like, shady tree. And where he sleeps, like, for 2 days. Where we're introduced to two very important characters in Larry's story. Nadine Cross and Leo Rockway, otherwise known as Joe right now. So, Nadine used to be a private school teacher. She found Joe wandering around in his underwear, holding a knife, covered in, like, bites and shit. And the kid is, like, gone completely nonverbal.
He's feral. He's a feral child right now.
He's very feral right now. The only person he even slightly trusts is Nadine. So the first thing he does when he sees Larry is he tries to sneak out of the bushes and stab him to death.
Yeah, this was a great scene. When Larry, takes the kid down so he doesn't get stabbed, and Nadine comes out and she's like, "What are you doing? He's just a kid." He's like, "Yeah, lady, you tried to fucking stab me."
That happens a little bit later than this, but yes.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, the whole... Because, I mean, we're going to be talking about that in this whole scenario, but, yeah, this whole little meetup, it's so weird and eccentric to my standards of normal that it was fun. I enjoyed them up in this scenario, and then you really stop enjoying Nadine.
Yeah, that was sort of one of her last scenes for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nadine's not a nice lady. Larry wakes up feeling completely refreshed, and he realizes, I'm an idiot. Why the hell am I not riding on a bicycle? Instead of just walking, because he still doesn't really trust the motorcycles.
And you know what's funny at this point? We've already seen the deaf mute and the slow guy get on bicycles.
Yes.
Yep.
To be fair, Larry was going through a lot mentally.
Oh, I'm not discrediting it, but I just like to show, I like how King showed the ineptitude of two disabled people are outweighing the ineptitude of a rock star. I got it, when I was listening, because I listened to the books at work and I wash dishes, right? So you know how silly it sounds sometimes when the dish pick guy's just maniacally laughing to himself about something in a book?
No, I never heard Steve laugh.
Yeah, well... It's weird, especially when he's just sitting there by himself with a headphone in.
Yeah. So, Larry...
It's only slightly ominous. Anyway.
Larry stocks up at the house, finds a bike, and continues on his way to the East Coast, because he decides that he wants to go till he sees water. So, Nadine and Joe follow behind him. I guess Joe kind of rides behind Nadine on a bike. I don't think he can ride a bike by himself at this point. So, they go over, 2-3 states to get to Maine?
Yeah.
Where the scene Jeremy just talked about happens, where Leo dashes at Larry, and Larry's and kicks him in the chest, and then stands on his wrist until he lets go of the knife, then throws the knife into the ocean, because gotta be safe.
I would like to have that. He just tried to stab me with that. I'm taking that away.
Yes.
Be free. Yeah, the rational kind of reaction to a knife attack from a child.
Yes.
I'm not going to kill the child, but I'm getting rid of his toy.
Pretty much. Although, Joe does find a new fixation shortly thereafter when Larry starts playing a guitar he found. And Joe is a instant savant at, guitaring.
Yeah, he can play by ear, is what it's called. So Larry will play something, and Joe will play it exactly as Larry did, if not better at some points. I know Larry said that himself. He goes, shit, the kid's playing it better than I can.
Yeah, the only difference is that Joe doesn't have the calluses yet to be able to put enough pressure on the strings to make it sound perfect. I believe is a thing that is mentioned.
Do they say how old the kid is?
I think he's supposed to be around 11 or 12.
Okay. Sorry, we don't find anything out about this kid, do we? From him?
No, we find out his name later on, his real name, but besides that, you don't really get much backstory. Nadine says she found him in front of a house that had a bunch of dead people in it, and she assumes that's his family. So...
I don't know, it's a shame. Yeah, we have a context on a lot of other characters, just not this one.
Yeah, and he's very important for Larry's growth as a character. And we...
Oh, yeah, for sure. He would have had memories of, what life would have been, before all that, with a family and everyone, so...
Yeah.
It's just interesting not to know where this character has been compared to everyone who we've seen and been with.
Yeah, he doesn't get fleshed out very well compared to the other ones, and he plays some pivotal roles in this story. So it's kind of weird that he didn't give him more substance for us.
Yes. So what we know about Leo is that Leo has the shine. He's a psychic kid. He knows when shit's gonna happen.
I was gonna let you finish before I asked. I'm like, and what's the shine?
This is a Stephen King podcast. They should know what the shine is.
Yeah, no. I understand. And I mean, if you don't know what the shine is, just add ing to the end and go read that book.
Yeah, it's a very good book. We'll get to that one day.
Yep.
Okay, so they end up heading up to Ogunquit, actually, where they encounter Harold's sign on the top of the barn, which starts quite a fun little side thing with Larry. Detective Underwood. I love when he goes into Detective Underwood mode.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Harold clues were fun.
Yeah. Like,
and it was weird because it almost builds character for Harold when he's not even involved.
Yeah,
like, it's just a side note of him.
Yeah, and like, I love how like Harold gets so built up in Larry's head of being like this like super resourceful, probably older guy, blah 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 blah. Then like he meets him, he's like, nah, he's 16.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like in Larry's head, I almost built it up as like the brawny man. You know, he's got a flannel jacket, a beard, he carries an axe everywhere he goes, and any problem he comes across, he can solve it with just fucking intuition. Like,
yeah.
And then he meets a 16-year-old acne-ridden pudgy kid. Sorry, it still makes me laugh.
It is great. So they decide, hey, we're gonna follow their signs. So they decide to grab some motorcycles after Larry cautiously teaches what's her face to how did I forget her name? Nadine.
Nadine?
Yeah.
What's her face?
After he helped Nadine to carefully learn how to drive one without dying.
Dude, now am I the only one that thought that was like counter and fucking intuitive? Like, he doesn't want to ride a bike, but I'm going to teach somebody that's never ridden a bike to ride a bike, and then I'll start riding a bike again.
Well, yeah, it's because the only way they could get there with any good time was taking motorcycles. Because if you would look at the map of America that I sent you, Maine's quite far from Nebraska.
No, I know. They went coast to coast.
Yeah. So,
oh, no, I understand it. Like, I do, but it was one of those things where I think Larry should have had more coaxing from Nadine to get on it. Like, he seemed like he was just like, oh, all right, let's go. Wait, what? You literally, like, walked 17 states. Like, what? But again, it's his growth, I guess. That thing I did like. But it was just one of those... It's like, you know, when you watch an action movie and the hero gets shot at 1,000 times and nobody can hit him, and then he shoots once and it's like, okay.
Yeah. So Joe is like the big catalyst for Larry's growth as a character. He kind of takes him under his wing. I don't even think he realizes that he's doing it at the time.
Yeah, he almost becomes his kid, eh?
Yeah, he essentially does adopt him. With Nadine and a character that they're going to meet very shortly named Lucy, who ends up...
Yeah, Lucy's actually pretty fun, too. She gives a lot of growth to Larry.
Yes, she doesn't have, like, a lot to do in the story, but, like, Lucy, like, she's very important, especially for Larry's growth. And I also guess the growth of Leo, or Joe at this point. Because, like...
Absolutely.
She's a far more stabilizing, like... I guess figure than Nadine was, because I mean,
that bitch was crazy, or is crazy.
Like, woman obviously really likes Larry, but as we find out, she's been promised to Randall Flagg, and
since he was a child, that story gets a little deep too.
Yeah, I want to know who the hell promised her to him. I'm assuming the
The
Crimson King.
my friend, the Crimson King.
Yeah, I'm assuming it was him.
All things serve the tower.
Shh, quiet you. Yeah, so Nadine's backstory is essentially she belongs to Flag. She's supposed to bear his child, and I'm not sure what that child's supposed to do, but she's supposed
get that far.
Yeah, we don't even we never get that far, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Whew, dodge that bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry.
It's like the one decent thing she does in the entire story.
Yeah, I mean, she starts out pretty okay. It's about when, like, Lucy shows up, she starts, like, going really bad downhill.
Yeah.
So,
And fast.
yes, and fast. So a bunch of other stuff happens, like we've already talked about it in the other groups. So they're on their way to Boulder at this point, where we meet another important character, the Judge.
The Judge. I love the Judge. He's just an old school judge.
Yeah, he's another one where the 90s miniseries, his actor is always the person I picture in my head when the Judge is, like, in the book.
I didn't understand why they needed to do the sex change in the new miniseries.
I guess
just a trend.
I don't think it really matters with the Judge.
Well, you know what? Him being an older man actually does add to that character, just because of how grizzled he'd be. Like, it did something in my head when they changed it to a woman, and it's not because I don't think a woman can be a judge. I mean, I love Judge Judy. Yeah, it didn't. I'm like, why? Like, if it makes sense to do it, I'm like, okay. But like, again, it's a trend following thing, and I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do it that way. But I'm not enjoying it as much if you had to just follow the fucking book. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm really. Source material is important to me, so it pisses me off when it gets changed like that just to fit a trend. I'm like, fuck off.
on the bright side, I mean, it's not like they characterize the Judge in the new one. They just kind of, like, this is the Judge. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, I bet you didn't even know that the Rat Man was in the new one. Yeah, it was the Rat Woman, though.
Oh, I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I know. She's the one that shoots someone. I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
So, they meet the Judge. Judge was a judge. That's just pretty much his backstory. That was pretty... so, it's not... It's
judge if you want to know what type of judge, but...
Now, it never really states what state he was from, right?
I can't remember, but again, I can't remember where a lot of people were from unless it was, like, part of, like, Stu. He's Texan, right? Like, even his accents. But, I mean, beyond that, no, I don't remember a lot of states.
Now, for Lloyd, we didn't really talk about him and his lawyer when we were talking about him in the first part. But, so, Lloyd's going on trial for mass murder. And they're trying to get a hold of the Judge, but they can't because the Judge is on vacation. And he's a circuit judge. So they have to pull another one out of retirement. Now,
Was it this judge?
I mean, I like to think that it's this Judge.
That would be serendipitous enough to fit this story.
It's never stated, but I'd like to think it is. Like,
I think that's a huge swing and a miss.
It's a huge swing and a miss, but I mean, it makes my head happy.
I mean, if they don't touch on it, and if you're okay with it, I mean, sure, why not?
Yeah, I'll go with it.
Yeah. So, like, headcanon, same guy. So
Yeah, okay.
Fair enough.
it's just
take it.
it's just fun. So they end up.
I mean, when you see anything right, you're probably right. Like, you're not wrong.
So that's pretty much everyone. Everyone ends up in Boulder, where Glenn gets to kind of pull all the strings with his civil engineering brain.
Doesn't he puppet master so well?
Yes, he's great. So for their little ad hoc committee, like, now that we're in Boulder, we're gonna talk about the committee as a whole, and then we'll have Nadine and Harold kind of separate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So when originally suggesting the names for the ad hoc committee, Larry's name wasn't on it, and in his place was Harold. Because Stu and Glenn made the list, and they're very impressed with Harold. Like, they know this kid's gonna, like, be big here. So they wanted him on the committee because they know how smart he is, and they're just like, we could really use his help. But Nick kind of poo-poos that idea because he doesn't have a good feeling about him. So they nominate someone else who doesn't want to do it, so Larry ends up on the ad hoc committee list as well. So in our committee, we got, Nick, Stu, Franny, Glenn, Ralph, Sue, and Larry? Did I say Larry already?
Yeah.
Oh. There's a seventh member.
Glenn, isn't the farmer on it?
Yeah, I already said Ralph. Anyway, it's like our big like main cast of characters essentially.
Yeah, this basically shows you who's important throughout the rest of the story.
Yeah, so they do a bunch of they essentially set up all the rules for the free zone. Larry finally gets to meet Harold, which I thought was like a really well done scene.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah, like he's just like, Larry's first impression is, this guy's gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah, you think he's gonna murder his.
Yeah. So they finally meet. I mean, it's not everything Larry thought it was gonna be, but I mean, I have a feeling that Larry still liked Harold. He was just kind of wary of him. Like, he's just like, something's not exactly right with this guy. But I mean,
did he not bring Joe with him, or is that another time?
No, he did bring Joe with him, and Joe refused to enter his house.
Yeah.
Which,
Now, what was funny, though, in this meetup, and we didn't really touch on it, throughout Larry following Harold's signs, he also noticed something else about Harold. He liked a certain candy bar, so Larry made sure to bring him a bag of those.
Yes, it was quite cute.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It wasn't everything Larry wanted it to be, but I mean, he met the guy. He's kind of okay with him, but a little wary. So let's kind of jump over to Fran, because she has some pretty interesting stuff happen in this part of the book as well. So she had been keeping herself a diary through their travels, and she does eventually hook up with Stu. We kind of glossed over that, but it's a big part for Harold's character development, and we kind of ignored it. But,
Well, I mean, you mentioned it in the last podcast that he winds up doing the dirty, because I remember making a gripe of mine about his character. I'm like, he said he wouldn't, then he doesn't, and I understand it was kind of one of those things that happened because Franny had no interest in Harold, but
yeah.
I guess I basically just covered it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. You just did. So, well, looking through her diary, she notices a thumbprint in chocolate. So she's pretty sure it's Harold. So she kind of breaks into his house through a downstairs window. It's the piss scared out of her when Nadine shows up and knocks on the door. So Nadine's already looking for Harold at that point. So she.
I got a question because I can't actually remember. Did she get the dream from Flag to go after Harold?
Not at this point. She hadn't. It wasn't a dream. It was like a seance thing she did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she used a Ouija board. So she does that. She's pretty sure that Harold's the one who looked through her diary, but she can't find any proof or anything. So she eventually escapes out, and while talking to Larry one time about a couple days later about the whole incident, because she didn't want to tell Stu because Stu's really getting along with Harold at this point. And
that's been kind of a dicey relationship from the get-go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's talking to Larry about it, and Larry's like, hey, when I was there, I noticed that there was a ledger hidden underneath the stone. So they decide to go check that out. And we almost missed it, but by this point, Mother Abigail had kind of gone missing. She kind of wanders off into the forest by herself because she feels that she's
pulled.
No, she goes out there for redemption.
She became a false idol. She was stealing God's prayers when people came to behold her, she was being greeted like a queen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's
and that's why she wanted them in charge rather than her, right? She didn't want them looking to her because she was old and she felt she didn't deserve it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So, like, they've gone out to try to find Mother Abigail several times at this point. There's, like, a whole committee thing where they made a search party, but no one can find her.
They go and get the power plant running.
Yeah, they go get the power plant running. Harold and Nadine start kind of hooking up in some weird, strange way, which nobody seems to have a problem with. And I find that odd because, again, Harold's a 16-year-old boy. Nadine is, like, 35.
Yeah, I had a problem with it.
I mean, just no one in Boulder seems to care, is what I'm saying.
Well, at that point, I think certain rules, like, I mean, he's old enough to be shot at. Kid's old enough to bang whoever he wants. You know, he's already doing adult things. Like, you know, you gotta, sometimes the numbers get a little blurred. It didn't bother me in the story, but I mean, I guess I really didn't think of Nadine's age either. I thought she was younger than 35.
I just think it's.
Like in her early 20s.
Yeah, I just think it's really weird that, like, nobody even. Everyone's just like, oh, good for him. It's like.
I think, you know,
You do acknowledge it. I don't remember that.
You know what the problem was in the story? They're both kind of a burden to whoever they're around, and then everybody's like, "Oh, they found each other. Perfect. Look after one another." Like,
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot how old Harold was.
Yeah, Harold's only 16.
So how old's Fran at this point then?
Franny's
Same age?
21. Or 22.
Okay.
yeah, she's a little bit older.
Yeah,
Franny was friends with Harold's sister.
Yeah, she was in college before the super flu.
Oh, okay. I thought, all right.
Yeah. That's why she, like...
Give him a wide berth.
Yeah, because she's like, dude, you're 16. And he's had a crush on her forever, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, power station gets flipped back on. There's a couple... There's a couple fires around town because, you know, nobody thought to unplug everything before they turned the power back on. But they eventually get that all fixed up.
Yeah, they start a committee to go around and unplug people's shit.
So, Harold, let's talk about him a little bit here as well. So, I think this is the chapter where, like, once they hit Boulder is where Harold's character really, like, thrives. He gets a lot of growth here. Not all of it good, but,
Yeah, no, he gets his nickname here.
yeah.
Hawk.
And, like, he's an integral part of this society at this point. Like, I feel like if people just talked to other people in this book, a lot of the negative stuff would not have happened. Like, I feel like if Glenn and Stu had gone up to him and be like, hey man, we put your name up for the ad hoc committee, but it was rejected. It's probably because you're too young. Maybe in a year or two they'll let you on. Like, I feel
Absolutely.
like that would have changed things, but nobody talks to each other in these books, so...
No, again, like I said, it gets very cloak and dagger in Boulder.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people are running into ulterior motives, but they're not saying it, right? Like, Glenn plays this, like, when they get into the council meetings and how he uses his degree to kind of, well, you got to remember about this. And then everybody's like, well, fuck, he's not wrong, right? Like, he doesn't argue. He just gives them a different perspective than the way they're thinking.
Harold is very, like, a lot of people hate Harold because of what he does, which we'll get to in a second. But I mean, everyone forgets Harold is fucking 16. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Well,
a hormonal teenager, and he's being manipulated by, like, a literal evil demon guy and a woman that's working for the evil demon guy. Like,
that is playing to everything a 16-year-old would like to have played to. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's building up his confidence, you know, and it's twisted how they get into this kid. It's actually it's really well written, but I mean, yeah, they really get their claws into him and shape him.
Harold is a huge victim in all of this. Like,
He really is.
there's even a point. There's even a point in one of his chapters where he stops and he's like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like, I could have a great life here. I just need to let all this past shit go. But that's his main, like, character flaw. Harold's unable to let go of the past, which is very sad because he could have had, like, an amazing life in Boulder.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was, isn't there, I know when he's doing, because they set up a corpse committee too, where they have to remove all the dead bodies from the houses to keep it clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he becomes a crucial part of that crew. He works long hours, he comes up with good ideas for things. But
Yeah, he was one of the head of sanitation at the end, wasn't he? Or he could have been.
Yeah, I believe so. And then, there's even a girl that, like, I believe in one of the scenes where they're coming back from doing it, she's checking him out in the back of the truck, right? Like, so, I mean, like, there was such a life for that kid, but he couldn't get rid of that vindictive little shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I meant he's a little shit, and he never got, like, I mean, Flag uses that too, right? So he gets manipulated. So, like, you almost feel like there's two characters in this entire story I feel bad for at the end. Like, just genuinely, they kind of got hustled. It's him and Trash Can Man.
Having said all that,
don't get me wrong. His actions are absolutely, he gets what he deserves at the end, but it just sucks that he has to deserve it.
exactly. So Harold's this massive, like, pillar of the fucking community at this point. Nadine does her little seance thing to communicate with Flag, who's, like, go seduce him and he'll have him kill the ad hoc committee. She does just that. Harold creates a bomb out of, like, a, walkie-talkie and some dynamite that he found.
Incredibly potent boom device out of not a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So then he gets it hidden in Ralph's house where they're going to have the next, like, meeting. And he ends up blowing up a whole bunch of people. We lose Sue, and we lose Nick, and a bunch of, like, NPCs.
Wasn't it Nick who found it?
Yeah, Nick's the one who found it, because in his head he could hear Mother Abigail telling him where it was, or something like along those lines. I may be getting that confused with the 90s miniseries.
Yeah, there's, I know Abigail mentions in one of the meetings with the council members that Nick's almost the, like, God's hand chosen one to lead the group, and then he gets taken out, and you're like, the fuck is going on here?
Yep. But, so, fortunately, not all of our characters are blown to smithereens, because, just before that, Mother Abigail came wandering back into town. So, a committee was set up to get the ad hoc people to come down to the hospital, because, she's in pretty bad shape, having been out in the woods for, like, 2 weeks and being 108. So, a bunch of them are outside when the bomb goes off, but, it still ends up injuring Franny's back. A lot of other people get away with some cuts and bruises. But I think like 12 people get killed in that explosion.
Now, what happened to Franny's baby there? Is that alright?
Oh yeah, Franny's baby's fine. But like she has to be on bed rest for a while because
That makes sense. I just, we haven't touched on her pregnancy very much, and it does become a pretty crucial point.
Yep.
Yes, a little bit. That's not till book 3 though.
A lot of things happen.
I mean, but, I'll throw questions like, hey, did the baby make it?
That's true. So they all end up in the hospital, get all treated and stuff, go into Mother Abigail's room where she tells them that the 4 men have to journey west to Vegas. And she doesn't know who's all going to make it, but she knows one of them's going to follow along the way. And that they're to leave that day wearing only what they have on right now, and they're not allowed to take anything with them.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah.
Well, I like what she said. Doesn't she send them with the, if you need it, God will provide it?
Yeah, pretty much. There'll be water if God wills it, some people would say.
That's the one, yeah.
Yep, there'll be water if God wills it. But to have that portent that one of them's gonna die.
Yep.
Does she tell them that?
Yeah, she says that. She doesn't know who one of them's going to follow along the way.
Shit.
Yeah. So, they kind of...
And okay, I got a question for you guys. It's like, when you heard that, who thought Glenn? Like, instantly Glenn. Like,
Again...
The old man's going down.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Glenn or Ralph, the first time I ever watched the series, I never thought it was going to be Stu who broke his leg. But...
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good, like... I mean, we'll get into it in the next one. because that's where that scene takes place. But like, I mean, that was a good scene. Like you're just thinking, oh, it's gonna be fine, then it's not. So
okay.
they all kind of like say their goodbye. Oh, we forgot to talk about the spies.
Ooh.
We did.
Yeah.
His mother, Abigail gives him shit for the spies.
Oh, that's only in the remake series.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, she's already gone missing by the time the spies are a thing. But so for the spies, they send the judge, Dana Jurgens, and Tom Cullen.
M-O-O-N.
M-O-O-N, that spells Tom Cullen. So, but they kind of hypnotize Tom and give him hypnotic suggestions to want to return and stuff. But we'll get into their little stories in the next part, I believe. Because that's when most of their stuff takes place.
Yeah, I figured that was when you wanted to touch on them. I mean, they send spies, and then the spies, it's all Vegas, baby, Vegas.
Yep.
Yeah. So
It's all building up to the final showdown.
it is. So they all kind of say their goodbyes. Fran really doesn't want Sue to leave for obvious reasons. She doesn't want to have to raise a baby by herself. And, you know, he's the first person she's loved since, you know, this whole shitstorm happened.
Well, and he's really stepped up. Like,
Yeah.
that's your man, dude. She doesn't want to see him go die for some stupid old lady when she's about to have her baby. She's getting selfish about it, and that's okay. She's got a lot of hormones, and
It's understandable, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. She just heard the old lady say one of them's not coming back.
Exactly.
Right? Like, how do you let your old man go into that? Like,
Well, to be fair, she doesn't actually say they're not going to come back. She just says one of you will follow along the way. Which...
well, no, and honestly, with all the shit they've been through, where's your mind gonna go?
Exactly, but
Yep.
I'm just playing semantics with you. So...
Oh, and here's another character we haven't touched on that I believe comes back now.
Ooh.
Isn't the dog back in Boulder?
Oh, yes. Kojak shows up one day, too. Out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Worse for wear. We actually get a chapter about Kojak's adventures.
Kojak is a go.
Yes. He travels across the states, ends up in Hemingford Home in Nebraska, where he has to fight off some wolves that are being controlled by the Dark Man. Unfortunately, he gets pretty banged up. When he in the fight.
7 wolves and wins. You're not coming out of that pretty.
Yeah, but fortunately, he makes it to the Boulder Free Zone. He's seen by the vet, and he makes a full recovery. And
Glenn shits a brick.
Glenn shits a brick, and he cries because his dog came home.
Well, I mean, this is the analytical statistics guy.
Yeah.
Who basically, when he said goodbye to that dog, thought he was saying goodbye to that dog forever. Now, this dog just followed them across America.
Yep.
What are the odds, right? Like,
Exactly.
Stephen King let us have that.
Oh, the way he wrote it too, because it was Glenn's dog, the analytical guy. Okay, goodbye, dog. Holy fuck, you came back. That's not possible. What the fuck is going on here, man? If I had any doubt, all statistical shit's out the window. That was it. That just got rid of it.
Yep. So
Exactly.
dog comes back, and the dog joins them on their walk, which is
Yep.
where this part of the book ends. Actually, everyone leaves on their journey to Vegas.
Goodest of boys. And it was pretty intelligent as a strategic point to just end on a high note after everything.
It's
With what's coming.
Yeah, because the last one, it was just everybody was kind of still in a scramble. This one ended with everybody together, and they've got a plan to fight now. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, this is, shit's about to get real in the next book.
All the families, or making families rather, the power's back on, the dog's back.
Mother Abigail came back.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It felt like a lot of stuff got resolved in this.
100%.
Like some of the stresses that they were feeling on the road got to be washed away for a bit. They almost got some semblance of normal again, or whatever normal could be in that world.
Yeah, it's them trying to remember the world that was, but unfortunately, we got to go forward.
Yeah, and I mean that's I think that's what Boulder is. It's the building block again. Like it's these people want to try and keep society together the way it was and move forward and not make the same mistakes of the past. Where the Vegas group, well, we're going to learn about them shortly.
I was just going to say they're the polar opposite of Vegas.
Yeah, I feel that
I think that's what it was, left and right.
I feel that Vegas has never been done justice in any adaptation. So, but I'll get back into that in next time.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But any closing thoughts?
This book for me was the slowest one. It's not bad slow. Like I wanted to continue listening to the stories, but it is this one becomes a very like again politicky book. There's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, cloak and dagger stuff.
Yeah, it was sort of the largest almost, but also the slowest.
Yeah.
It was really just sort of establishing where these people are in the world rather than have them journey through it.
Yeah, like this is almost, I'd like to call it in the whole walking journey of this book, it's their deep breath.
Yeah, the breath before the plunge. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the breath before their stand.
Yeah.
That was lame.
That's fitting too. It works.
Okay. Terrible jokes aside.
Yeah, I thought it was a good book. Again, it's slower, so I mean, don't read it before bedtime, but get into it. Sit down, give yourself a few hours to actually get into parts of the story, and you'll really enjoy this one.
It really sets up the final.
Yes. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of our little podcast, and we hope to see you again next time. Until then, see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one, folks.